The Color Purple has had this amazing life. First, it was a book, then it became a movie, and then that movie became a musical. And now the musical has been made into its own movie. That is a lot of adaptations. Today on the podcast, you'll hear if the new Color Purple does justice to the original. I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This is Commotion. Look, before we get going, I think you should hear this for yourself.
I was married to a man I didn't love.
Whatever I say, go.
And he took my sister away from me.
Even if we have to part, you and me, us have one heart.
That is a bit of the trailer for The Color Purple that is in theaters right now. It's, of course, a beloved book, an Alice Walker book that won a Pulitzer Prize. It became a classic film, and then that classic film was made into this Broadway musical in 2006. And now that musical has found its way into a film. This new version stars singers Fantasia Barrino and Halle Bailey and Her, H-E-R, along with Taraji P. Henson, Danielle Brooks, Coleman Domingo. The Color Purple is one of these deeply beloved coming-of-age stories, one of the most beloved Black coming-of-age stories in contemporary pop history. Sarah-Tai Black is here. Kathleen Newman-Bremang is here. Simonpillai is here. We're all going to talk about this and also some other stories in a minute. But first, hey, Happy New Year to all of you. Hello. It's so nice to see you.
Hi. Happy New Year.
I'm so excited that we get to kick off the new year like this with talking about The Color Purple. We're going to also talk about Ferrari in a minute. Also, we're going to talk about some of your maybe movie forecasts for the year 2024. But first, Kathleen, I got to say, the official slogan for this new Color Purple movie is this quote: "A bold new take on a beloved classic. You are the biggest Fantasia Barrino person on the planet." Does that slogan live up to the film?
Well, first, I am going to say that I had a really amazing time in the theater watching this reimagining, and that, yes, my girl Fantasia gave the performance of a lifetime. I have her and Danielle Brooks, I think I have never seen performances this great on screen ever, I'm going to say, let alone of last year. I think they were incredible. And the film, it made me laugh. Of course, it made me cry uncontrollably. That is who I am.
Yeah, that's who you are.
I love the choreography. I loved the music. I think everyone should go see it. I'm saying all of that to say the answer to your question is no, I don't think it was a bold new take on a beloved classic, as promised in that slogan. Because, in Alice Walker's original text, the characters Celie and Shug Avery, played in this version by Fantasia and Taraji P. Henson, they have a romantic relationship. They have a sexual relationship. And in the film, that is reduced to a pretty chaste kiss, and their romance is more implied than explicit. Mm-hmm. And that is similar to the Color Purple film from the 80s. And so watering down that queerness of the original text is not bold to me. And that was very disappointing. I think they were maybe going for a faithful adaptation of the Broadway musical, which also stripped away some of the queerness from the source material. So I'm sure that was the justification. And it's a beautiful film that got a lot of things right to me. But the beauty of adapting and reimagining classics now is to take risks, I think, and to be more inclusive. So what is the point of remaking The Color Purple in 2023 if it can't be gay as hell? I just don't understand that choice.
I just wanted to just admire the elegance of you saying, look, if Fantasia Barrino has 100 fans, I'm one of them. If the world is against Fantasia Barrino,
Exactly.
I'm against the world. My girl did great, but I have problems with the movie. That's your general
Correct.
position. I buy that. I 100% buy that. That is who you are as a person. Sarah-Tai, I mentioned that this version of The Color Purple has a deeply impressive cast, right? We're talking about Fantasia. We're also talking about Her. We're talking about Halle Bailey. Did the idea of adapting this into a musical work for you?
I was apprehensive but open, and kind of on the same train as removing the queer context. It felt like a bit watching a musical, not to stereotype, where there were too many straight people involved. There were so many songs that seemed like just kind of still in draft mode, kind of still and the quality of them I find gets noticeably more undercooked as the film continues, which is a shame because Fantasia I was not a Fantasia fan before this. I knew Kathleen was. I went in with a headspace like, okay, American Idol. She put her foot in this performance.
Yes,
and that's why it's so unfair that the staging of this musical was so kind of like hokey and at times really disconnected from the world of the film.
Yeah.
And I feel like for those familiar with The Color Purple, you know that there's a lot of gendered violence in this, a lot of sexual violence. And some of the songs were placed in very emotionally insensitive moments, especially in the beginning. Like, you can't have a song about joy bookended by sexual violence against Black women on each side and like not kind of put that in its right context. It felt like the film kind of wasn't on Seeley's side in the beginning, and you really need a film to be on Seeley's side in order to pull off a film and a story like this successfully.
Yeah.
I think also like these beloved characters like Sophia and Suge Avery, who were so well cast here with Taraji P. Henson and Danielle Brooks. Both of them are not like the strongest dramatic actors, but they have so much charisma and so much great comedic timing that like their songs, Danielle Brooks' song busted the film. That was great. Like in a good way busted, like broke it open. But Taraji's song, like that was something where I'm like, we should have had not just like the queerness of it, but like the emphaticness of it, like the glossy chutzpah. The choreography should be like on point, you know, it should be hot. And it was kind of just sizzling.
So this is the odd thing, Rad, about like taking a piece of work through so many different adaptations, because like this musical comes out in 2006, runs for 2 years, is revived again in sort of maybe like 2013 or so, brought to Broadway 2015. It has had a lot of these lives. Danielle Brooks was in the Broadway musical revival of the show, and then kind of plays the same character in this. But by the time you sit down and you're like, okay, I'm trying to accept this as a thing that is coming to me in the medium of film, but also as a musical, you're asking a lot of the material to go through so many different filtrations. Did it work for you?
Well, it didn't work for me. And I think that's what you're saying there is interesting, because I think we do have a different receiving mechanism when we're in the stage, when we're in Broadway, and we want to receive a musical from the stage because it communicates a different way. And when you get film and you get close-ups, you want more authentic emotion. And similar to what both Kathleen and Sarah-Tai were saying, it's like, well, especially Sarah-Tai, when you talked about like the musical numbers being oddly placed, like my initial reaction is these musical numbers seem to be getting in the way of the emotions of the story, right? And for a lot, I mean, so I was initially like thinking that, I get it. Like the Color Purple, the Steven Spielberg movie, that movie leaned into the trauma of it all. So there is this aspect of this story now trying to lean into the joy by leaning into the musical numbers and kind of taking less risks with the more dramatic content, right? Or with the more traumatic content. And the right way to have gone about that, if you did want to have more joy in it, then yes, like Kathleen said, lean into the queer story. We lean into that love story. But here, it felt like the musical numbers existed in a different world from the story, it just struggled to marry the two. And if you think it's hard to do trauma in a musical, and I think the one movie that took all the risks and big swings that managed to pull that off was Cabaret, right? And this movie couldn't do that. So by the time you get to this emotional catharsis at the end, it didn't feel cohesive. It didn't feel like the emotional catharsis belonged to the people that the story belonged to.
Kathleen, as Rad was talking there, I saw you sort of like make some of like couple of facial expressions. I'm like, oh, I'm interested. Because I do think Kathleen is like more naturally amenable to musicals than maybe the rest of the panel. So
I think I am too.
Okay, all right.
I like Step Up all in.
Step Up is not a musical. I cannot handle this.
Not a musical.
It just has music in it. Kathleen, okay, take it away. You speak the word on musicals.
Well, I mean, the thing is, the interesting thing about listening to Rad is that Rad answers himself as he's speaking. So I was like, I think that the magical realism of making Seeley kind of imagine these numbers in her head as she's dealing with traumatic things in her life, I think that worked actually for me. I think my issue wasn't that these musical numbers felt misplaced or there was like too much joy in this traumatic story. That wasn't my issue. I think what Rad said is that they needed to lean into the queer love story. They needed to reconcile Seeley's trauma, especially the sexual trauma that she has experienced, with like love and joy and a true romance, which they didn't do. So they didn't pull it off in the third act for me, but the rest of it didn't bother me. Like, it is a musical. I went in knowing it was a musical. So that's okay to me, that there was like joy and music and singing juxtaposed with this really traumatic story. That was okay for me.
Okay.
But I understand.
I have to say, it was kind of a little bit stunning to sit down in the theater, and then the first musical number starts, and like a number of people in the audience go, oh, because I didn't know. Because I didn't know that they were sitting down for a musical. I think a lot of people just kind of think they're sitting down for a new take on this, on a story that they know. And then suddenly they're surprised by a musical. And I just wanted to go up to them after the show and to be like, what did you think? Because you clearly didn't know what you were signing up for. So I'm curious about that.
This is a trend with the Hollywood marketing machine, where the trailers are burying the fact that they're musicals. And you see that with Mean Girls.
Mean Girls.
Yeah. It was after the
Wonka,
disaster.
the same thing happened with
West
Wonka,
Side
to be
Story.
honest with you. Like, a lot of people who showed up for Wonka, like, we didn't know this was going to be a musical, Sarah-Tai, I got to ask you, we keep talking about all these reimaginings of these classic films, right, for younger audiences, and sometimes it makes sense to introduce a classic story to a younger audience. Is there any chance this is a version that becomes the new classic for younger audiences, do you think?
No. but it's less like me thinking it will or will not, and me hoping that like Alice Walker's book will be the source text for all, and then they just follow through the filmography that accompanies it.
You don't even mean like the Oprah movie. You actually like are specifically referring to,
in my opinion, they're both Oprah movies. Like, let's be real here. We know all of the hands involved.
Said derogatorily, I think that's sort of the thing that I'm noticing.
Said neutrally, with the knowledge that Oprah has a lot of power. She's an executive producer on this, as is Steven Spielberg. Something I was really wondering about this film was how much kind of directorial autonomy did Blitz have, because it felt very Oprah-fied and very Spielbergified, derogatory, later Spielbergified. Not 80s Spielberg, 2000 Spielbergified.
Okay, real quick, I want to throw to a clip. I want to play you guys a clip here. This is Taraji P. Henson, who plays Shug Avery in the film. Here's something that she said during the press run for The Color Purple. Take a listen.
When you hear someone saying, oh, such and such made $10 million, no, that's not, that didn't make it to their account. Know that off the top, Uncle Sam is getting 50%. That's right. Okay? So do the math. Now we have $5 million. Your team is getting 30% or whatever your team is off of what you grossed. Sometimes not more. After what Uncle Sam took. Now do the math. So I'm only human, and it seems every time I do something and I break another glass ceiling, when it's time to renegotiate, I'm at the bottom again, like I never did what I just did, and I'm just tired. I'm tired. I'm tired.
Sarah-Tai, what's your reaction to what Taraji was saying there?
I am so in awe of her speaking up, but mostly I hope, and I truly hope, that she doesn't get Moniqued. Because the last Black woman who spoke out about her treatment under Oprah generally, that did not go well for her career. And I really hope that we are in a place culturally where we stick up for her. And I believe everyone should be paid fairly, of course. I think Black women should be paid fairly. I think that no one should be making millions of dollars from like one gig at all. I think that all the people, obviously, who contributed to the film should be paid fairly. And I think the strike opened our eyes to a lot of to the fact that a lot of people working in Hollywood are also working class. So on the one hand, I do very much sympathize, but on the other, it's like, I'm like, Taraji, I actually don't want you to make millions of dollars either. I want everyone to be paid fairly. It's not that I'm just sad that you're not in the upper 1%. But yeah, I think that seeing kind of the narrative of Taraji versus Oprah that's kind of subtly been emerging, where we're like seeing some tension. It has just brought up, as I said, a lot of parallels with Monique and her work on Precious and how that kind of went for her.
My understanding of Taraji's comments, maybe last word on this to you, Kathleen, but my understanding of her comments wasn't that, she's being underpaid herself. It was just sort of in comparison to like the what other white Hollywood actors sort of make for doing the same kind of work in similar movies. And so that begins to make her career kind of feel devalued in that way. What's your take, Kathleen?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I mean, Sarah-Tai has a point for sure that this disparity of what actors make is real. And in this capitalist society, no one should be making that much money. However, within Hollywood and within entertainment, this is what they're making. And Black actresses, we see them speak out about it over and over and over again. You know, Viola Davis, I'm going to paraphrase here, but she has this famous quote where she talks about how people call her the Black Meryl Streep, but she's not making Meryl Streep money, right? And so we're talking about equity here. And Black actresses like Gabrielle Union has talked about it. Robin Thede, after these comments came out, she did a whole thread about it. Monique is a great example. They've talked about it over and over and over again. We've seen repercussions for people being vocal about this. So I just want to know how many more have to talk about it for this to change. You know, The Color Purple did massive numbers at the box office. Who is going to see the returns on that? I don't know if it's going to be Fantasia and Danielle Brooks. They're going to hopefully receive nominations throughout this award season. Will that translate to more money for either of them? The examples we have, Halle Berry has said that she did not make the money that she should have after winning an Oscar. I think that if history is any indication, it's not going to change. And that's really, really frustrating to me. And I think you hear that hopelessness in Taraji P. Henson's voice because she knows that. And I wish I had like a hopeful thing to say that, yes, society has changed. It's Sarah-Tai alluded to and everything's going to be great. I don't have that belief.
Listen, it's just because it's a new year, you don't have to be hopeful. Like it's not like everything has changed in the membrane between last year and this year. Yeah. I'm interested in seeing how this conversation plays out after award season, because I do think you're right. People like Danielle Brooks and Fantasia Barrino, they're in line to maybe receive, more and more nominations. And I hope that changes the course of their careers and how people talk about them as stars. Okay, we're going to keep things going with this.
Two objects cannot occupy the same point in space. At the same moment in time. The corner races at you. You have perhaps a crisis of identity. If you get into one of my cars, you get in the win.
Okay, so that's the trailer for Ferrari, but if you heard a laugh, it's because Sarah-Tai could not contain themselves hearing Adam Driver in his iconic Italian accent. The second time that he's played an iconic Italian. I want to come back to that in a moment. But first, let's talk about Ferrari. So this is a new biopic of course, Enzo Ferrari, the legendary Italian car racer and entrepreneur. Adam Driver plays this guy. There's also Penelope Cruz, Shailene Woodley's in this movie. This is a Michael Mann movie. He did Heat. He did The Insider. He did Miami Vice. My favorite Michael Mann movie, by the way, is Collateral, but nobody asked me. It's fine.
I knew it was.
Do I scan as a Collateral kind of guy?
Way too
you have Collateral energy.
I do get Collateral is such a great movie that I will ride for Michael Mann any day of the week. But Rad, let's talk about Ferrari real quick. What did you like? Did you like this film? Did it work for you?
Yeah, I ride for Michael Mann too, right? And people will call me a Michael Mann apologist when it comes to this movie, because it is certainly a flawed effort from him, and I would say an endearingly flawed effort. But because Michael Mann, to me, this is perfect for him. He's the Ferrari of filmmakers, right? His movies have very smooth surfaces where you might want to lick the surfaces, but then beneath it all, there's this kind of roaring engine. There's a lot of masculine brio that he's analyzing. There's a lot of philosophy there. And so when you get a movie like this, let's ignore the accent for now, this exploration of Enzo Ferrari's kind of very emotionally disastrous life. I think Michael Mann does interesting things there, and that clip that you played off the top, again, ignoring the accent, that clip where he talks about two things cannot occupy the same space at one time. That is kind of the guiding ethos of this movie, where Enzo Ferrari is constantly trying to make make space for two things that are colliding. He has a really thorny relationship with his wife, played by Penelope Cruz, who's just killing it in this movie. Absolutely ferocious. They are mourning their young son, but meanwhile, he's also making space for his new son with a mistress. And then on top of that, there's, like in terms of the competing forces that are colliding in one space, I won't give it away, but the movie arrives at a point where he has to hold space for both victory and tragedy. So it's interesting how that just that Michael Mann elegantly weaves that throughout the movie. But yet again, I do get that it's maybe a little more dramatically inert than some of his other movies. But at the same time, like this is a racing movie. This is a Ferrari movie. Maybe you expect more roaring car scenes, but Michael Mann's so much more interested in the kitchen scenes, which, you'd absolutely expect from the director of Heat, who, if you watch Heat, great big heist scene, but the movie was eclipsed by a coffee shop scene. Yeah.
What I liked about your review of Ferrari is that you several times said ignoring the accent, which I will not let Sarah-Tai do. Sarah-Tai, this is the second time that Adam Driver has played this iconic Italian figure, right? He played Maurizio Gucci in The House of Gucci. Did Ferrari work for you? Did Adam Driver's Italian accent work for you? Tell me a story. Tell me.
Okay, I'm not anti-Adam Driver by any means. I'm neutral, but he's so stiff in this, and I understand his character is a little bit like that, but his portrayal of that stiffness is in itself stiff. Yeah, and his accent is so bad. It's Count Dracula. It's Count Dracula, and it's really hard to separate his performance from that. And believe me, I tried. And it's not just that. It's that almost every single person who's not Italian or Penelope Cruz in this film does not just have a bad accent. They just forget to do accents. Like Patrick Dempsey at one point is just American. Shailene Woodley is I don't know what she's doing. It's so confusing. Speaking of all the money in the industry, I'm was there no dialect coach? It's almost kind of insulting to watch something like this. And I think that especially paired with Penelope Cruz, who I would watch read a phone book. Yeah. Truly, as Rad said, ferocious in this. I hope she wins some awards. It became kind of a joke. I'm this is who she's paired with. Every single thing was with that accent. And I just could not take it seriously. And I feel I really had to maintain my POV with Penelope Cruz for that reason. And I love the way she kind of punctures the boundedness that women are cursed with in Michael Mann films. We get to hear Sarah Gadon's character have 2 lines. Come on. Yeah. But yeah, it was a strange ride. Very Stuart Little coded. Vroom, vroom.
There's never been a greater diss in my entire life. Okay, so we only have a few minutes left here, and it is the first week of 2024. We got 363 days of opportunity for a movie to come along and go you know what? This is the thing I'm looking forward to the most, and I'm going to spend all my time thinking about it. Kathleen, I'm going to start with you. What are you looking forward to the most in 2024?
Well, in this house, we stand Zendaya. And so Challengers comes out in April. It stars Zendaya, Mike Face, Josh O'Connor, directed by Luca Guadagnino. I am so excited for this. I read the script, and it is about a tennis player turned coach of her husband. He's a Grand Slam champion, but he hits a slump, and so she signs him up for this Challenger event against his longtime rival and her former lover. It is fascinating and nuanced and complicated, and also the dynamic of them being 2 white men and her being a Black woman is really interesting that the script doesn't really get into, so I'm interested to see if the film does. And I also just love watching Zendaya move. You see her move on a red carpet. You see her physicality and euphoria. I am so excited to see her take that on in an athletic capability. Yeah. I think it's going to be incredible.
Sarah-Tai, 30 seconds to you.
I think not most looking forward to. I don't know that anything could even be that for me in this time and age. Take a look around. Yeah. But I am looking forward to James Samuels, aka Seal's little brother, his new film, The Book of Samuel, which is Lakeith Stanfield, Omar Sy, yay, James McAvoy, daddy era. Yeah. I wasn't the biggest fan. Listen, Kathleen, watch the trailer.
I'm into it.
I wasn't the biggest fan of his last film, The Harder They Fall, but given what we see as a critic and as a moviegoer in general, to me, all all I want. You can't see me, but I'm doing prayer hands. All I want from a film is something new. And he definitely did that. So I'm excited to see kind of what he does with this.
Interesting that neither one of you said Jason Statham's The Beekeeper, but I'll let it go for now.
Did you know that?
What's that?
I almost did.
No, I did not know that. I'm so looking forward to that. That's a whole other conversation. That
played before Ferrari.
It looks like it's going to be the movie of the year. Rat, I literally have 30 seconds. Go. Is it The Beekeeper?
I am no, not The Beekeeper. I am actually looking forward to the Francis Ford Coppola movie that he's been trying to make for like 40 years now, called Megalopolis. This movie, like, it's supposed to be kind of like a follow-up to Apocalypse Now about the fall of society, and no studio was having it. So this man literally fronted 120 million of his own dollars to put this on. And guess what? It stars Adam Driver.
Oh my God. It's the Adam Driver year. Okay, we got to leave it there. Rad, Sarah-Tai, Kathleen, thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to see all those movies and also The Beekeeper. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Elamin.
Bye, y'all. Thank you so much. This is Commotion. I'm Elamin.